Happy Black Friday or Boxing Day if you're in Canada. I think today is Boxing Day. I don't know. I'm not up on my Canadian holidays. But obviously, it is the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday. People are out there stabbing each other over saving $50 off of a TV. I am in the comfort of my house because yesterday, Thanksgiving, was a nice day. I went over to my uncle's house. I brought my grandparents over there, and we had a large feast. I did eat too much, I feel, and I feel disgusting today, but there's still leftover food that I have, so I want to eat it. But it was a busy day, a busy but good Thanksgiving day. But I wasn't the only one that was busy on Thanksgiving and during the Thanksgiving season, because Nintendo decided, hey, we're going to be busy too. There are two separate things that happened around Thanksgiving or on Thanksgiving Day that I definitely want to highlight because I find them pretty interesting, including a studio acquisition literally on Thanksgiving Day. And it's a pretty large studio. So if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'm not a Nintendo YouTuber. There just happens to be Nintendo stuff to talk about today. The first thing we're going to talk about is an update to the NES and Game Boy Nintendo classics over on the Nintendo eShop, whether you are a Switch 1 or a Switch 2 user. They added in 4 different games: Battletoads NES, Ninja Gaiden 2 NES, Bionic Commando Game Boy, and Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters on the Game Boy. Now, upon surface inspection, these are fine games. If I had to rank them in order of what I like, I would go Ninja Gaiden 2, Kid Icarus, Bionic Commando, and Battletoads. Yes, I am not a Battletoads fan. I think the difficulty is artificially inflated, and the turbo tunnel can go to hell. But Kid Icarus is an interesting one because this is the second best Kid Icarus game, because Kid Icarus on the 3DS is the best Kid Icarus game. Kid Icarus on Game Boy is the second best, and the NES is the third best, which means it's the worst. I don't like that game either all that much. But it's not necessarily about the games themselves that have been added to the service, although it is nice to see the NES and the Game Boy getting some love because, Nintendo tends to forget about systems from time to time. But it's the updates that kind of happen behind the scenes with Nintendo Switch Online that actually made this more interesting. So, with this new update, they finally added in button mapping for NES games so you can change the controls on it, which was not a thing to begin with, which is very bizarre because you could do anything with N64 games. I guess they were just the poors on the standard subscription service, they don't need to change buttons or anything like that. But now they added that in, and they also made it so that there is 1080p/4K display on the Nintendo Switch 2, so you don't have any more upscaling blur when playing these games on the Nintendo Switch 2. Another very nice feature. They also changed up the CRT filter on this as well. It is a different sort of CRT shader, and I'm not going to use that. I don't get it. I don't get scan lines. I don't get CRT filter. Maybe it's because I have a CRT TV still, and it's if I want to look at games like that, I can just go do that. But I don't get the fake filter stuff. But then again, there's people that yell at you, CRT TV and a retro console, it's the only way to play, because the retro gaming community is just so friendly from time to time. But this is a good update. This happened right before the day of Thanksgiving, but it was at nighttime, and I think this is a really nice update. But the second story is definitely a bit more crazier and a bit more off the rails because Nintendo, they don't really buy up companies. There's been a couple. There's been a few here and there. But it seems like recently, maybe there's been a little bit of a reinvigoration in wanting to have companies under the Nintendo umbrella. You might remember the most recent acquisition for Nintendo was Shiver Entertainment. And everyone was like, who's Shiver Entertainment? Like, what do they do? But they actually worked on WWE 2K25 on the Nintendo Switch 2, which is better than the other 2K ports. Because unlike NBA 2K and unlike Madden, which, I mean, isn't a 2K game, but you get what I'm saying. Unlike NBA 2K, the WWE 2K runs at 60 frames per second on the Nintendo Switch 2, and it also has game share, so your friend can play it with you, and they don't even have to buy it. But it seemed like Shiver Entertainment was going to be the, you know, the standard Nintendo random acquisition that they do from time to time, but now they've actually acquired one of Bandai Namco's studios, which is Bandai Namco Studios Singapore. And when you kind of look at it on the surface level, it just looks like, oh, well, they bought Bandai Namco Singapore. Not a huge deal, but there actually is a bit more to it when you kind of peel back the layers. So as far as Bandai Namco Singapore, what games are they known for working on? Well, they are known for working on Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown, Soul Calibur 6, and Splatoon 3. There's another game, but it's written in some other language that I can't read. It doesn't look attractive to me. But they did Splatoon 3 for the Nintendo Switch. So they've obviously been working with Nintendo quite a bit. Ace Combat 7, of course, did get a Nintendo Switch 1 version. Soul Calibur 6, however, has not come over to the system. Now, Nintendo purchased an 80% share of the company, making them a majority owner. They will be getting those shares on April 1st, and then they will be renamed to Nintendo Studios Singapore. So, interesting enough, you know, a studio acquisition is always interesting, and when you kind of look at it, it's like, oh, well, I mean, let's be real, some of these Bandai Namco ports on Switch 2 have been ass. So maybe they're trying to help out with that, because Bandai Namco is a pretty large, you know, developer and publisher of a lot of games that should look and run great on the Switch and Switch 2, but they don't. But what I find even more interesting is a little bit of a tinfoil hat thing, and you'll have to ride along with me on this. But there are some parallels to this that I kind of see with how Nintendo has purchased a company previously. And that company, of course, has done a game called the Xenoblade series. That's Monolith Soft. Now, Monolith Soft was actually in bed with Namco before Nintendo came along, and you had the Xeno Saga series and stuff like that, and that's what they were known for, the Xeno series, essentially. But Nintendo ended up coming along after Bandai Namco and purchasing an 80% share, much like they're doing with Bandai Namco Studios Singapore, into Monolith, and then of course they ended up purchasing all of Monolith, and now Monolith is completely under the Nintendo umbrella. Now obviously renaming the studio to Nintendo Studios Singapore definitely holds a lot of weight because they're going to be the primary owner of it. But I can't help but feel like, you know, is Nintendo potentially trying to make a play on a bigger portion of Bandai Namco? Now, Bandai Namco has a lot of stuff outside of video games, such as animation and stuff like that. So I'm not quite sure they would want all of that. I mean, maybe they would. It would probably just be like very expensive in terms of being able to do that. But is this a way to get a foot into the door to potentially get more of Bandai Namco? I don't really know. I think it is something. It's something to keep an eye on at the very least. You know, time will tell with this sort of situation. But honestly, I just hope that this means Bandai Namco games look and run better on the Switch too. Like, a lot of these games are crusty ports, and Bandai Namco has been half-assing it. Like, let's just say the least. But then you got to also think about, well, Duskbloods, a Bandai Namco game from the Elden Ring team, FromSoft. I mean, it is a Switch 2 exclusive. Is there maybe a little bit more to this? I don't know, but I do know that Nintendo has had a very busy and very fruitful Thanksgiving Day. And for that, I am thankful because it gave me some good stuff to talk about today on the channel. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Do you enjoy? I'm sure you're gonna be mad at me dogging Battletoads. Like, it's just not a good game. Like, the difficulty is stupid difficulty. It's not difficulty to where it's like a good challenge. It's just I don't know. It's not that good. It's not that good. Get over it. Remove the childhood blinders and look at the game for what it is. It's not that great. But what do you think about Nintendo adding in additional features, such as the Switch 2 update for the visuals? Have you noticed it, and less ghosting in the games? Obviously, the ghosting thing was a big thing talked about when the system first came out. Hopefully this could potentially alleviate some of those things when it comes to the classic games. And the Bandai Namco acquisition. What do you think about that? And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Thank you for all the positive support on yesterday's video. You know, I just kind of, I just like to talk to you guys sometimes, you know, man to man, man to woman, man to they, them, you know, just get it out there. Let everyone know that, hey, you know, everyone struggles with stuff. To live is to suffer. To survive is to find meaning in the suffering. So, you know, at the end of the day, we're all in this together. So thank you for all the kind words, and thank you to the one individual who gave a crazy super thanks on the channel. That was nuts, bro. You did not have to do that. But thank you guys. I hope you have a good Black Friday. I hope you have a good weekend, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.